That's what it says. Are we going to do that? I'm going to be getting on that plane right there. Joe Biden, I'm hands-on. A better tattoo artist. And welcome to a special edition of the Marty Heiser Show. You know, this attack of this wonderful actor, Mr. Caller, do you have something?
Good evening, Joe Visconti here, sitting in for Marty Heiser, who's out in San Diego today. Coming to you from Channel 23. For all my friends out there on Facebook, they're watching this live stream. And tonight we've got a great program. It's a 60-minute program. Got some great guests, and behind me, you'll be able to see in a few minutes what the show's first segment is all about. It's going to be about Zionism. What is Zionism? What is Zionism? Israel, America, and what does that mean to us, our culture, our future in politics, in religion, and the whole shebang? So we're going to begin with that segment on Zionism. And my guests tonight are Matt O'Brien. He's the Coventry, Connecticut Republican Town Committee Chairman. Matt, thanks for being here.
You bet.
And Seth Rosenblatt, a good friend over the years from West Hartford, Connecticut. And he's going to be our expert on Zionism tonight. We're going to be drilling him to find out what's bothering Seth, what's bothering a lot of Jewish Americans that feel Israel has been pushed into an aggressor nation in the public arena over the last, I would say, 6 months with some of our little left-leaning Congress people. So I'm going to start off right away with Seth. Seth, hey, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Great. So we'd had this conversation this week when we decided, Marty called me and said, Joe, do the show. What do you want to do it on? It's up to you. And you got something to say, so I'm going to open it up and ask you, what is Zionism? Where did it begin? What is the meaning? And where do you see it going in America?
Okay. In the latter 1800s, Zionism was the movement to reestablish the nation, the Jewish nation, in the ancestral homeland in Israel, which was renamed Palestine. It actually was renamed Palestina by the Romans after they expelled the Jews from the region in the years following the death of Christ. It was really a humiliation to call it Palestina because it was named after the Philistines, a people that were extinct 1,000 years before. So there's really a real confusion that people have with the term Palestine. They think it was some country that a bunch of Jews from Europe came in and occupied, took over, and that's not the case at all. It was a region that was controlled by the Ottoman Turks, then the British, and then finally there was a partition plan to have a Jewish state side by side by an Arab state, a Palestinian Arab state. There were just Arabs living in the region. There was no country known as Palestine.
Right.
But the Arabs chose no, and they decided to attack the Jews, the newly formed state of Israel, with 5 Arab nations attacking they were totally outnumbered, the Jews, and everybody thought they were going to get slaughtered. And of course, we know that a miracle happened and that didn't take place.
And during that time, it was 1948, 47, 48?
48, yeah.
How was the word Zionism or Zionist, what did that mean back in that time?
It was a very proud term back then. On my parents' graves, it says proud Zionist on my dad's grave and on my mom's grave.
So the word was a word of reverence.
People respected it because when I was growing up, when you were growing up in the 60s, it wasn't that long ago that our parents lived through the Depression, lived through the Holocaust. Many of our dads fought in World War II to defeat Nazism. And 6 million of my people were wiped off the map by the Germans. And they had their cohorts. The Arabs were partners with the Nazis.
I've seen the history of that. What's important today in American politics, I think, is what's happened to the American Jewish voter? Let's get into politics, where I believe it's close to 77% vote Democrat, where we see the Democrat Party presently opposing Israel, considering it an aggressor nation, considering it cruel to Arabs. But beyond the politics, the way it's being spun, the word Zion, I remember growing up in Hartford, and near Trinity College, there was a street called Zion Street.
Zion Street,
and
yes.
I asked my dad, we're Italian, Dad, what's Zion mean? He goes, oh, that's from, the Jews in Israel. And it never stuck to understand what it meant. It seemed to me, a non-Jew, that it was a word that's been forgotten or taken to mean something bad. So tell me a little bit more about, from your world and from your family and even those on the other side of the aisle from you, how they see the pride of Israel and Zionism today. Does it exist, or has it been secularized?
It's been secularized. Most Jews, American Jews that I run into, don't feel the same way that I do. I'm a secular Jew. I'm not religious, but I do believe in the survival of the Jewish people and the survival of Israel. Most Jews that I run into could care less about Israel. They've just, I would say their religion is the Democrat Party, not Israel. And it's sad. I'm vilified where I live.
How does that, because I know, being a Mr. Republican, I know kind of what the metrics are, the voters, why they vote, but do you see a change in the American Jewish voter, Americans born here that maybe are secular, are Orthodox, and we're from a town where there's a lot of Orthodox, how they feel of the left today? And it's clear, I'm not politicizing, it's very clear there's a complete anti-Semitic, we have anti-Semitic Congress people. And again, not to necessarily politicize it. I want to look at the word Zion, Israel, our great ally, and without the religion, without the race, Semitic race, how are they handling it? Are any of them awakening to what's happening within their party? Is there a pushback? Do you think a pushback will be coming?
There's some. There's a movement of Jews that are Democrats to leave the party, but it's not nearly enough. It's a very small percentage.
Right. So there's a justification that this is happening politically.
Yeah, well, because on college campuses, the kids are taught that the Jews are occupiers and that Zionists are no better than Nazis, that they're committing genocide against the Palestinian people, which is absolutely not true. Absolutely not true. It's a myth. It's a story.
Last year, Matt and I both were. I'd love Matt to break in right now, talk a little bit. We went on the day of the opening of the embassy, May 10th it was, to Israel, flew in that day, and went to Jerusalem in the evening, filmed it, Facebook Lived it like this event is, and we had a different experience being, well, Matt's, what, 15%?
5%.
5% Jewish, but we had a different experience of being Catholic, of what Israel is all about as a country, and Matt, just tell the audience what you felt. You're 31, I'm 62. Different generation, but we kind of felt the same thing.
It's like a whole new world. You know, when you step off the plane, you breathe in the air, you smell the air, and it's unreal. You know, a lot of it. Beautiful country. I mean, they're building all the time. It seems like we were in Tel Aviv. They're building huge skyscrapers. You can tell that the economy and everything is booming. They're experimenting with agriculture, and I mean, their technology is amazing.
Medical technology.
Their medical technology, especially, they're like a hub for this area and for Europe, and everybody.
When we went to the West Bank, tell the audience a little about the West Bank experience, which I didn't think was, personally, there was an aggressor, Israel, against them. But talk about that a little bit. I was driving, you were filming.
Yeah, so we were down on the border with Gaza. Is that what we were down on the border with Gaza. We were able to get pretty close, but there was a lot of warnings going on, that there was some fire back and forth, and You know, the one thing I noticed in the sky was a hot air balloon, basically, and that's how they were monitoring, you know, the whole border. Really cool stuff you don't know. You know, you wouldn't know that otherwise unless you saw it.
But I felt it was friendly, Seth.
It was friendly,
You've been there.
I was there in '73.
Yeah, that was probably a...
Just shortly
talk
after
about that, because that was still the formation of
I had my
the
bar
60
mitzvah in Israel by the Wailing Wall.
Oh, wow.
And that was in '73, and I visited all my relatives there. My family were some of the people that built Israel. They lived there when it was Palestine before it became Israel.
I noticed that the Palestinians and Arabs that were in Jerusalem, most of the merchants beyond the Jewish quarter, they're the merchants. I mean, they didn't seem to be conflict in bad areas like we have here in Connecticut and other big cities. There is the violence, but I didn't see, and that's what we were looking. We filmed like 4 or 5 hours of time, and just going through because we were astounded, not Jewish, and going, what is this? The Holy Land, people from all walks. Every religion is there. It's a crossroads.
Everybody's welcome in Israel.
And so I seem to see, politically, I do see this, that somehow that didn't get translated over to our political system. Yet we are allies at the highest level. And so it seems that there's an undermining of politically being used as a tool versus the reality of the safety of Israel, the partnership, how they're actually working hard. And when we went to some of the towns going up to Galilee, went to towns that were predominantly Muslim, and it was, and you know, see the mosques. It's wide open. There's no police or walls or they have their own towns. Everyone lives together. I was astounded.
And very few people realize that Israel is comprised of 20% of their population is Muslim, is Arab.
And growing, right?
Yeah, and growing, and they have full citizens' rights. They're Israelis. They have full citizens' rights.
We noticed that. So,
they're not persecuted.
So it seems to me that from my experience last year in Matt's, that Israel is just, it's not what I thought. Half of the country from up the middle to the Mediterranean, the agricultural, the trees, going all the way up to Jerusalem, like I was in Canada. It was unbelievable. And so what I'm trying to say is this Zion, again, is it an old word? Will it come forward? Or has it been translated into almost like our America First? Does Israel have that political identity, do you think? And does it translate to the states where Israel, the pride of Israel as a country?
It seems to have gotten lost in translation in this generation, in my generation, and definitely the generation after, that came after us, our children. They just don't have the connection with it like I grew up having that connection.
And you're not Orthodox. Your brother is, I know.
My brother lives in Israel most of the time. He lives in West Hartford part of the time, but he's very Orthodox, very religious. And his children are raising their children in Israel right now. But I mean, people don't realize that that long before the Holocaust, Jews were persecuted all over Europe, and that's what precipitated the Zionist movement. Theodore Herzl in the 1800s was a journalist, an Austrian journalist, and he was covering the Dreyfus affair in France, where Dreyfus was a captain, a French captain who was set up by his comrades as a traitor, and he got sent to Devil's Island. And everybody knew that it was a sham. Everybody knew that it was a setup, and nobody did anything about it. It was a kangaroo court. It was all because Dreyfus was a Jew, and his comrades were jealous of his accomplishments and hated him. And Dreyfus didn't even he considered himself a Frenchman, not even a Jew. And Herzl felt the same way. He says, how is it that we try to be good citizens in our countries? We try to be good, progressive, good citizens, and they hate us. So Herzl said, you know what? He said, the only conclusion he came up with is, we have to have a homeland of our own. We got to get out of here. We got to get out of Europe, because it's only a matter of time before the hammer drops on us.
Do you see the persecution of the Jewish people over the centuries, and what the rise of the anti-Semitism of the left? Not necessarily the voters,
Yeah.
but the political left.
It's frightening what's going on in the country
and the
right
silence
now.
of the majority leader of the left
Right.
in the House,
Yes.
Schumer, who's Jewish,
Right.
the silence of them that are Jewish, that are allowing the radical left to use phrases like "it's all about the Benjamins," it's just totally
Yeah.
anti-Semitic.
It's eerie. It's eerie.
What do you think of it? I'll let you talk. Just tell me what you think from your gut.
Well, some 70-odd% Jews always vote Democrat, just like they pull that lever without thinking. And I can't understand how, you've got a congresswoman that got elected to Congress, which is shocking, Ilhan Omar in Minnesota. And then you've got Rashida Tlaib in Michigan, both Muslim Americans who are openly calling on America to cut ties with Israel. And they say that they're anti-Israel, but they're not anti-Semitic.
Right.
There's a very thin line there, a very, very thin line. Many of the on college campuses, many of the anti-Israel, the BDS movement, many of the lectures on boycotting Israel on college campuses devolve into kill the Jews openly on college campuses. It's shocking what they're getting away
And so
with.
the silence of the leaders of the left on the issue. So we basically have the
Crickets.
Israeli-Arab conflict metastasizing as a cancer in our political system today.
Yes, yes.
It's just being reborn, regurgitated over here. The same conflict that doesn't seem to be able to be resolved. You mentioned something to me, I don't know, today or a couple days ago while we were kind of talking about the program. If the Arabs had loved, I don't know how the saying goes.
Golda Meir.
Golda Meir,
who my
yes.
mother knew, Golda Meir. She was American. Golda Meirson was her name before she became Prime Minister of Israel. She lived in Milwaukee, and she worked for the Jewish National Homeland before Israel was created. And my grandmother worked in the same organization, Hadassah, with Golda Meir. And she would come to Hartford. She'd travel all over, and she came to Hartford. She would sleep at my grandmother's house.
Wow.
And my mother had to give up her bed for Golda Meir.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and my mother said she was just a tough lady, cigarette smoking, booming voice, really,
cool.
a hard-working woman.
And her saying was about the Palestinians?
Her saying was about the Palestinians. She said, as prime minister in the 60s, she said, there'll never be peace in the Middle East until the Arabs learn to love their children more than they hate us. And sadly, it's the same today.
Yeah. Let's flip this over to, I don't want to say the good Arabs or good Palestinians, but I mean regular people and Muslim, which were dominant everywhere in America, because this has all been one-sided so far about Israel. What is your take on all those business people, regular folk that happen to be of the Muslim faith and not involved with any of the radicalism? Are they being? I know they are, but what is your take on how you see? I guess maybe their silence, they can't speak up, or they don't speak up against some of the more radicalized views?
Well, I mean, you have maybe 15% of the Arab world that's radicalized, but when you've got 1.5 billion Muslims in the world, that ends up being a large number.
So we really. And so you do see the defense of that, and you're seeing a lot from the left. We need to defend Muslims because Christians or whatever. And so you're seeing this being played out in our political system at a level I have never seen it. And it will get into the Trump rhetoric where people are saying he's this, so we're going to do that because he's almost like a playground. And tell me about that, because we're all Trump supporters here. But what is your feeling with the way Trump, how do I praise this? The way Trump almost doesn't defend himself against being a Nazi and a racist. He's not, but he doesn't defend himself against it, and which lights a fire under the left. And so we're getting this. Well, all we keep hearing is you're a racist. You're everyday. We're all racist. Yes. We're nothing but racist. Or anti-Semitic. So all these basic, almost playground slurs of a bygone era seem to be right back at the table for everybody in the political spectrum. What do you think that's going to turn into the next 2, 4, 6 years? The way it's going, from your perspective.
Is it going to grow or get knocked down?
Is there a way to transcend it, or does it just wear out?
Well, it's going to grow unless people speak up. People like Ben Shapiro. There are people that speak up and speak out. They get shot down on college campuses and yelled at, and their free speech is being attacked by groups like Antifa. If you disagree with them, they want to hit you over the head with billy clubs.
Yeah.
I mean, the First Amendment is the most important thing in the United States. That is the most important constitutional amendment. If we lose that, we're in deep trouble.
And we did see that on the campus, all of us at UConn. We all had an experience of, it was a small group,
Right.
but how the
Jews are afraid to speak up on college campuses. Jewish students.
Jewish students.
Yeah, they're attacked by, I hate to say it, they're attacked by radicalized groups on campus.
By radicalized groups.
All across the country, in Canada. I mean, it's happening everywhere.
When kids are that age, they'll experiment with different groups and
Right.
get into the wrong thing.
And the administrations of these colleges do nothing.
Yep.
They do nothing to stop it. It's frightening.
So do you think Zionism as a word, a Zionist,
Yes.
will change into a different word, reemerge as its own meaning? Because it seems the word has been antiquated, but it's a word that's been misunderstood in the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
How do American Jews or Israelis, that love their nation, they're not going to say Israel first. I mean, that's something that what Trump is doing with America doesn't mean everyone else is last, but we've got to take care of ourselves first. I saw that firsthand what Israel's doing and what they're doing with multinational people within their borders and not our citizens. But how do they identify? Do you think there's something, public relations or a movement that could come about where, not to counter radicalism on the left, but to bring the fairness where with the race, because Semitic is a race, nation, and religion.
Yeah.
So basically all three in one. It's like not found in America. People
Yeah.
don't
Right.
understand, but how does Israel, because I've thought about this, we're going to go back next year, and I thought about how would convey to the American public what this country is really like. The Holy Land, and I'm Italian, and I saw Roman ruins, and everyone had been in Israel it's a crossroads of the Middle East and Europe, and it's special, the land is special. I didn't feel Israeli or Jewishy kind of things. I felt everyone was welcome there, of every religion, and I'm just wondering, and I've been thinking, how does Israel and how do American Jews find a medium to be able to combat this hundreds and hundreds of years of anti-Semitism without feeling like they're boasting and being called, it's all about the Benjamins.
Yeah.
So if they're successful financially, oh, you're a rich Jew, and it's all about the Benjamins and all. And when Matt and I realized in parts of East Jerusalem, because we do think this, you don't know, you hear these cliches over the years, but the working class Jewish people in America and in Israel are like a forgotten, like they don't exist.
Yeah.
And tell me about that, because your relatives, from soup
my
to nuts, how your
my
relatives.
grandparents were Russian Jewish immigrants. They came here before the Bolshevik Revolution. They came here penniless, broke. They heard the United States, the streets were paved with gold. And what they found was that wasn't true, but they found there was hard work here. There was work available, and it was hard work. And my grandparents worked 7 days a week. They had no day off. There were no unions back then. And they worked hard, and they struggled, and they lived, they survived.
So the cliches about the rich Jews, the Benjamins and all that continue to become anti-Semitic, like hate them because they're successful. How does that work with those that are successful, with the socialism? Tell me about that, because what you think about the socialism and then the wealth that they're being accused of having. What are your feelings about that? Because you hear it all the time.
Yeah. Well, my grandparents would say that in Russia, when the Bolsheviks were gaining power, a lot of Jews joined up with the Bolsheviks, thinking that, whoa, we'll finally be considered brothers and sisters, all one people, and we wouldn't be identified as being Jews. And they found out that
targeted.
Right, we won't be targeted. We'll meld in with the people.
Right.
Share. We'll all be socialists together.
Oh,
we'll
I
share
see.
everything.
So it was an acceptance thing and protection.
But
and
it didn't turn out that way. It didn't, unfortunately, didn't turn out that way. When Lenin seized power in Russia, Trotsky got the axe in Mexico City. Trotsky was a Jew, leader, Bolshevik leader in Russia. The Jews got persecuted even worse by the Soviets than they did under the Tsar. So, it just never changed. Human beings are human beings.
Yeah. We've got a few minutes left on this segment before we move to the next one, and I'd like to ask you this question. It's again about someone we all endorse, the president. What do you feel about his daughter, Ivanka, converting to Judaism, his grandchildren, and being called a Nazi? Beyond what they're trying to do, what do you think about the ridiculousness of his grandchildren and his daughter? And he's definitely not. We saw in Israel, they had the flags of him, Trump in America, in Israel.
It was amazing.
But yet, how can that stick? That's what I'd like to ask you. How can that stick?
I'm a little biased because I met President Trump before he became president, had a great conversation with him, liked him very, very much, and was in support of him way back then. I think it's fantastic that his children and grandchildren are Jewish.
But that he gets the label as anti-Semitic.
It's just so absurd. I can't
so
even
the
speak to it.
absurdities are basically just keep putting him out there?
I can't even speak to it. It's so absurd that anybody could call him anti-Semitic. He's been the best president for Israel than any president that we've ever had.
We saw that on the opening of the embassy. We witnessed that.
How could Jews ignore this? American Jews should take note that he is the only president to deliver on the promise of establishing the embassy, the United States Embassy in Jerusalem. Every president promises to do it, and then they back off on doing it. He actually did it, and he gave back a piece of the Golan Heights that was annexed by Israel back to the Jews, which is very important.
So how could he be anti-Semitic?
He's not anti-Semitic.
Well, we know that, but
and he's not racist.
Is it just something, again, a playground slur that people are throwing at him? If it sticks, they can keep it sticking and pile on with
Try to make anything stick because that's the Democrats.
Try everything.
The Democrats, they want power back by any means necessary. And American Jews should know that this president is the best president they could possibly have on their side. And I'm just shocked that they stay with the Democrats. Any American Jews staying with the Democrats, with Ilhan Omar and Tlaib running the
worse
show.
than that, where Schumer isn't speaking, being
Schumer's
American Jew.
silent.
He's silent.
He's
And
silent.
He's the leader,
Bernie Sanders,
leader.
forget it. He's what I call a fake Jew.
So
Not
we,
even a
so
real
we have
Jew.
Jewish leaders on the left who were majority leaders at one time, minority
Right.
leaders,
Right.
who aren't going to stand up against this. They're allowing it, and again, the silence is
It's
condoning
complicit.
it.
If they're silent, they're complicit. And I can't.
Or they're afraid of the radicalized element in
Or
their
they
own
agree
party.
with it.
Yeah, or they agree. I don't know. I can't speak to it. It's to me, it's unfathomable.
Well, I think the race, the anti-Semitic, the race, we've reached a place. I'm 62 and I can't believe what we're seeing. It's
can't
just
believe it
become
either.
you're racist, you're this, and it's become on both sides of the aisle. We're not getting anywhere as a country with that. We are getting financial as a country, but culturally, the power seeking has been, just something that's harmed. I think it's harming. Whoever's elected president in 2020, I don't think it goes away. I fear, because I was a leader in the Tea Party in Connecticut, and we would never be radicalized. We were concerned about that, and when you're holding rallies and whatever. But what I've seen the left do, even on Inauguration Day, burning cars in D.C. where I was, right in front of me, and so you're seeing this violence, and I just hope that the left, somehow there's maybe an event where the left says, and that somebody says enough is enough. I think we're going to have an event. And I don't know how anything else that can actually put a halt to the fervor, because you may hate or not like or whatever, but once it triggers over to violence, that's my great fear, and I don't know if we can get away from that. So anyway, we're running out of time on this segment, so you can stay and jump on the next segment. We're going to be talking about, we're coming into a time where we're going to be talking about Connecticut politics and an issue that doesn't seem to want to die, which we've all worked hard on, called tolls. The Democrats, the governor, seem to want to bring back. It's not over yet. There could be a special session and a lot of groups, the No Tolls group, will give them kudos for all the work they did getting signatures. The Libertarian Party, which we all helped get the
There you go.
get the radio ads, get a rally together, and do all they could do as a small party. They put these hats out, and so it seems that the Democrats and the governor just don't want to let this die as a major issue. And what are you guys thinking, Matt? You're you ran for chairman of the Republican Party, so you're up on the inside now. You got to know something.
I think the governor is confused with his own policies. He's going to keep pushing, I think, for tolls. He literally flip-flops on a day-to-day basis. It's like truck tolls one day, okay, every car, every vehicle the next day. How many are we going to have? They're all changing factors in this plan that the governor has. So we'll have to keep paying attention and be vigilant, because I don't think this thing's going away.
Yeah, it seems as though the last talk was something may happen in late August, prior to when everyone's really away for vacation.
Right.
And it's pretty interesting that the governor has been doing some shuffling around with his people around him. Our former mayor and friends of ours, Jonathan Harris, is one of his deputies in the governor's office. Jonathan's from West Hartford. Chief advisor. Wow. So we all go back with Jonathan. Whatever. Max Reese. Oh, I want to address this. Is important. And if Max or anyone on Facebook is watching, because he is a friend, Facebook. Anyway, Max was with Channel 30, and there's been this whole hoopla. About someone wrote an article that all these people leaving the media to go into politics, and I've known Max for running for governor 4 or 5 years, and he's got 2 young kids like you. At the twins, I think they're 2 or 3 years old now, and in the defense of Max, he's got character, and there's been a lot. There was articles coming out about a lot of people in media that went into politics, or politics into media. But Max was from Channel 30, and I have full confidence that he won't. And the thing was, are you using your celebrity as someone on the news to convince the public? Well, the governor right now, he actually needs some people that are savvy with the public, because he's a novice in politics. He's just been elected. He's messed up over and over, going back on his word. So I just think a person like Max, who is a citizen, has every right, with 2 young kids, want to make a career move in his defense. And I've known his integrity through interviews, through many articles, when you get hit in the media, or the fairness of them. So I think that journalistic integrity he'll bring over to the governor's office, even though I'm against Governor Lamont and the bad Democrats. And I was texting them before they changed the number about this. You went onto the dark side, But and again, almost like what we were speaking about earlier, this insanity on issues and ways politics used to be. That everything is like a panic moment or a trigger. And so we've reached this level on triggers. But let's go into more Connecticut politics, because we had we're in the summer, with the dog days of summer. We're just coming through July, and today's August 1st. So what do you guys see on the horizon after the municipal elections for next year, the presidential year coming up? How do you think Connecticut's going to, the Connecticut Republican Party is going to do? Are they going to cower again and not stand with the president? Will the president affect the Senate and state rep races next year? This is where everyone's formulating what the next step is, and it's time people aren't thinking about it. So what's your take, Matt?
Well, first of all, municipal elections are first, and those are really important. I'm running for town council in Coventry, and I've got a great slate of candidates running with me. I'm really excited. So towns right now are either looking at primaries, or they're jumping in, hopefully, a little bit early this year to start campaigning. Get out there, meet people around your town or city, and really get to know what your slate is going to be talking about for the next few months.
How are the tolls and the tax increases from Lamont and the Democrats affecting the municipals right now? Because usually that's where the bench is. They form benches, and people that become municipal move up to state rep next year, or state senate. And so this is the bench and the farm team, which is municipal
Right.
elections. How's it going in your area? I know Coventry is a Republican. I think you got a majority right now of Democrat, but
do,
it's
yep.
always been kind of conservative, even though it's near Yukon. What's the lay of the land with the tax increases? The straws that have kicked in today. I think, was it today they kicked in?
Yeah,
Or the bags,
straws
the bags,
and
the
bags,
bags. Yeah.
bags especially.
How is that affecting everybody on the local level?
Yeah, for Coventry, the voters they pay a lot of attention to taxes and where their money is going. For tolls, I'm not sure that we can really. People are blaming the Democrats, right now because nothing's happening. So, everybody knows that Lamont wants tolls, and all of his Democrat reps also want tolls. So they can be blamed, probably soon when they pass it. But I don't know if it's a factor right now. I really don't.
And what would you tell Western Connecticut about Eastern Connecticut? Because we're in Western Connecticut, Bethel, Danbury.
Right.
What would you tell them? It's the flip side of the state. And you've been out here campaigning too on different races, so
Yep.
you know the territory. And when I come out here, I feel, it's a different vibration, but what would you tell them that's happening in a few words, in a sentence, that's happening what's Eastern Connecticut going through?
Groundswell. I think there's a groundswell happening right now. People are pretty ticked off about the way 2018 went, and I think they have some regrets as to how much help they provided in general, and they don't want to see that happen again. So I'd say, yeah, in one word, groundswell. People are coming and volunteering, and I'm seeing it in every town in Eastern Connecticut. There's a lot of energy.
I've been doing a lot of traveling lately, and I don't have a transponder, but I've been getting toll bills
Right.
from Massachusetts and New York, coming. It's unbelievable. And if you're late on one of them, you get a bill, and they jack it up.
Yeah.
And so it's just amazing to see that. Once you get a transponder tied to your credit card, you may not see it the same way. But when you don't do that, or you don't have a New York transponder or Massachusetts, it's amazing to see it coming in the mail. This is a utility.
I
Yeah.
get
What
them
do you guys
too,
think
yeah.
about? What do you think the future is if they open the Pandora's box with this, in Connecticut, the way they want to do 50, 60, 70, 80?
Well, look, for me, for tolls, we already pay taxes that are supposed to go to the Special Transportation Fund, and they're misused. So it's not only, it's another tax, it's can we even trust you with the money? And I think the answer is no. There's no way we can trust our own government right now with the people that are in power. Maybe never. I've always been, not so trustworthy a government in general. But a government that's repeatedly stolen money from a fund that's supposed to be for the people, for our roads.
And then you have a governor who says truck tolls only, then as soon as he's elected, he says car tolls too.
Right.
So now you don't have the trust of the governor. He just came out of the gate and blundered.
Yeah.
So, and I've been on the roads, like I said, traveling a lot, and the bridges with the truckers, I mean, people don't realize, when they said truck tolls, I personally didn't care because we're going to pay on the delivery charge of everything,
Right.
from Amazon to
Yep.
ordering these hats to this cup to the desk.
Just jack
We're
up the
going to pay. So
prices.
if I buy it, I'm going to be an add-on. I don't mind that being delivered, but the roads are being destroyed by the trucks. They're overweight. They don't even
Tearing them
they're
up,
not even
yep.
way stations. Our elevated bridges in Bridgeport, in Hartford, I did some pictures and put them up on Facebook. You could just see in between the ice melt and
Right.
the heavy truckers hitting these elevated bridges over the 30, 40, 50 years. I remember them putting 84 in. I'm young enough to remember that, or old enough to remember that. I just think that the truckers wouldn't have been, there's not a lot of money in it. And but I did think, a lot of people said, no, Joe, that'll be a gateway, then they can put them everywhere. But somehow, the argument the Democrats are doing right now, you pay the toll, you borrow, and you bond, so they're trying to make the bonding and the interest payments to the bank or the bonds the boogeyman.
Like
and
bonding is irresponsible all of a sudden.
Right, so we got this whole thing, and the Democrats are really trying to nuance this and catch people, but their problem is they can't get enough Democrats to sign on.
Yeah.
They have enough to give, I believe, but they want to share the blame.
Right.
And they can't get thank God, they can't get the Republicans to come forward so they can share like they did last year our budget. That
Yeah.
missed them. They finally came in and did a budget, and immediately it was a bipartisan budget, and it's not us, and that's what they've been looking for. Because I think they can give in the House 30 seats, so they could protect 30 different state House reps and not have them go away on vacation. That's what this may be about in August. They're on vacation in August. They couldn't come to the special session and vote, and so oops, I missed it. When I run for election, I didn't vote for tolls. You know, I was in Cape Cod. So they're doing that thing in August, I feel, but they do have 30 to give, but they want the blame, and they haven't been able to find the political traction to blame Republicans. And finally, the Republicans, for once, have stood their ground. Where
that was because of the people. You know, the people came out and said, "No, we're not doing the toll thing," and the reps have to listen. Because it's, you know, their seat on the line.
And he won. He's won saying truck tolls. So if he did do that, and Rhode Island's gone through this thing where there was lawsuits in the state, and basically it appears that a state can put truck tolls in only. And even though they're trying to nuance it, that they can't because of the formulas. I told through a text message, Joe Arizminowitz, I texted him, he didn't respond to this one, but I said, well, why don't you just wait for Trump? Because next year they're going to be doing infrastructure. We don't know what that mixed bag is going to be.
Huge projects.
Tolls may be part of it, private sector investment. I said, why are you guys rushing this? Why don't you just wait for the president, and which is going to be a bipartisan. He's already agreed to almost $2 trillion, because our roads are, we got hell holes. I mean, in the airports, they're bad. Our infrastructure is shot, and people don't seem to want to. They want to just say tolls for money, but will we ever go to what we need it to be done? So you get the bill paid, or your kid goes to college and, you know, he's drunk in parties and not doing his homework, and so you get the college bill. He's in the college, but there's no learning in this application. There's no the repairs. I think it was 9 times more expensive per mile in Connecticut to do a road. Than
it's a
just
lot
about
more.
any other state in the region.
It's double half of the states.
And so what do we do about that?
It's crazy.
Because Matt, talk about that, because this is important. You ran for chairman of the Republican Party, and you didn't make it, but tell me what you think the Republican Party needs to. We all know, I'm going to let you talk, but what do you think they need to do, really get their messaging across about some of these simple specifics that could be advertised by the party on issues that pop up, where they can tell the public what the unions or teachers union, if there's ever a cutback in a teacher union, you see a television ad, all of a sudden a teachers union, or this is not fair, workers deserve their rights. Why aren't the Republicans doing anything through media buys, and do you think they will? Because that was a big part of your platform.
You know, my position is and always will be most likely, you know, that we need a unified message, and we need to get the message out repeatedly over a long period of time so it gets into the public consciousness. Will it happen? I don't think so. I just don't think that, you know, not being critical of the leadership themselves, but I just don't think the mindset is there to be aggressive and be bold. I think that, you know, they want to play it safe and they don't want to hurt anybody. Maybe because they don't have the right strategies, but
well, this is time, and they're losing, and they have voters, but they're losing participation. I've been an opponent of a lot of the fake Republicans that have been out there running from the president. Before it was the president, it was George Bush. I was on a ticket running against John Larson with McCain, and I heard Bush lied, thousands died, and they were treating him worse than treating Trump. So it's never going to go away with the left, but we don't message. And if people don't know marketing, there's 3 elements. There's message, frequency, and reach. Reach means where are you putting it. And so our candidates go out there kind of blind. And the Republican Party, I believe, or the Senate has political action committees, and our state house has political action committees. Somehow these committees, or there has to be an organized media where when something comes out, the left media isn't couching everything to protect the Democrats, and their people are sick of it, and they're leaving because they realize a minor party can't win. They believe that they won't vote or they'll leave.
We're at 20% right now. I'm pretty sure that's the number for the percentage of the population that's Republican in Connecticut. You know, and it's decreasing, and it's not a good thing. You know, we have to pick up the baton here and start registering Republicans and getting a message out there. And messaging is so important because you have so many people that are unaffiliated voters, And they actually do their homework. They go and they look at
do you
each
remember
candidate.
the numbers on this last race with Bob? What the numbers were for him when he ran for governor? Was it
Participation?
Yeah.
He had 73% participation.
And what did
by Republicans?
The unaffiliated? What was the number?
It was like 65%
that we picked up. The Republicans picked up.
Yeah. Well, no. So we got 2/3 of the unaffiliated vote for Bob.
Republicans
That's a better
for
way
Bob
to say it.
Stefanowski got
Yeah.
2/3. So the reality is, the public likes the truth out there.
Yep.
If we don't, and in a way, I've never been 16 years in politics given up on Connecticut, or even a Republican Party that don't seem to have the courage. But the messages don't have to be that bad. They just have to be, look at the governor said this. Imagine we have a radio ad. I'll write it right here and deliver right on the set here. We have a Governor Lamont. And congratulate him for being elected. He's gone back on his campaign promise, and then he's waffled in his positions. He's given no stability to a message on what he wants to do with infrastructure. Taxes have gone up. We don't want to be negative. We want to ask the governor, what really are you going to do? Just kick the can, and then in a year from now, we'll be back with a new TV commercial telling you he kicked the can.
Yeah.
So he's not being put on the record, and the media is completely, the left media is spinning, which means lying about what really is happening. And so I think the public can't, like with Trump, you've got to get their bile up, you got to get them angry at an injustice. And so they don't get to see an injustice because the injustice or the lie that a leader would do, all of a sudden the injustice isn't answered with, somebody say it. He just did that, but they nuanced it. Well, the governor didn't really lie. He changed his position and policy, and he got some new information.
Right.
No, he lied for votes. He stole votes.
Yeah.
And I held up. Seth took a picture.
Like the toll issue
I
wasn't
held
a
up a
big deal.
picture, Lion Ned, right underneath his
Yep.
plaque outside his office a few weeks ago. We took a photo and put up on, because you lied. You lied for votes. Now you lied about your policy. People vote if you're thinking truck tolls only, and you stole their vote.
Right.
That message about the governor lying, and never mind lying, stealing their vote. I voted for you. Have people on TV. I voted for the governor because he said trucks only. And now he's saying cars too. And I'm upset and I want justice because I got my vote stolen. I wouldn't have voted for him. And so we don't, as the Republicans, aren't doing anything to give voters that, not necessarily a slap to the governor and something that's not, cordial, but something that actually says, the governor, at the end of the closing television commercial, Governor Lamont, please stick to your word and your campaign promises. Don't ask us what we should do. You're the one who said that you knew when you were running. So if you don't know, please step aside. Or please stick to your policy. But they've turned around and they've put it back to the people in all these media articles. Well, what would you like to do? They're putting polls out. What do you suspect the governor? Don't I be asking the citizens? He told them something, they voted, now he's asking them again, so that it goes, the responsibility gets back on the public. And this is not just tolls. This is infrastructure, this is health. This is every issue you can think of Connecticut. If they're doing it to the ones that are obvious, imagine the nuancing and the spinning they're doing to every micro issue. So then we believe there's nowhere to cut. Yes, there's plenty of places to cut, but the general public doesn't believe that because they're not given the data about the governor's changing his positions, stealing your vote, getting people angry,
Where the road
so
money's
they don't
going.
trust him. And now he has to do something. He has to take action to save face. And I think this governor's got thin skin. And if the Republicans press him through really good, sharp media messaging that's paid for on Channel 3, WFSB, NBC, and the public sitting home, Fox 61, right in the middle of Family Guy or whatever you're doing. Did you know the Governor Lamont promised this? Please call his office today and tell him blah, 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 blah. I mean, that's going to get him, because he's not Dan Malloy. He doesn't have skin this thick, okay? He does care about
bother
people.
him.
I think it bothers him, and I think we can not work with this guy. We get this guy to do what he's supposed to do. And if the Republicans don't make the push that way, as a party, as a state party, not as an individual candidate, and that's what the party's been doing, leaving it up to the candidate to do, and they may win or they may not win. Why they're trying to get their name recognition and align themselves with a party message,
and they don't have the resources to do
talk
it
about
anyway.
that. I'm going to drink and talk about that, because
So
you know
that was one of the main things. in the election was, is it the responsibility of the party in general to bring forward a message and advocate for Republicans, or is it the job of the little guy who's so focused on, his district, a relatively small region in space, in Connecticut, and there's no unification.
And keeping his day job.
And keeping his day job and everything else.
Yeah. Running for office.
They're not professional politicians.
And it's up to them
we don't have professional
to get the message out?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
How can we bring pressure on the state party and also the House and Senate leaders who have political action committees? What kind of pressure, besides the kind of political bombing that I do, what kind of pressure can actually come from the general public onto the party so that they actually understand the public wants to hear this? Trump is doing it right now. He just finished on live TV saying, here's what happened. This was wrong. They lied to you. He's tweeting it out. You may hate him, but you can see time after time again, he's not wrong. They hate him for him being correct, for it to be brazen. I think there are the voters that to turn Connecticut red if the Republican Party goes 10% of how powerful the president is with their messaging. Not all in Trump, but 10% of that kind of brazen, you know what, we're done with these deficits. You know what, we're done with the Democrat Party. I mean, we made memes and put them out there that said, Democrats destroyed Connecticut with a wrecking ball in the state. Don't let them destroy Coventry. Don't let them destroy Bethel. Democrats destroyed Connecticut. Don't let them destroy Danbury. And so these municipal elections, that's, I think, is the message. And I wonder, there's enough time. Do you think J.R. Romano, the Republican Party, would raise $500,000, $1 million, $2 million and really try to get those municipal elections really? Because what that I think that would do is it would brand right now in the next 3 months and help the 2020, not just the president in Connecticut, whether he wins it, but taking back the House and the Senate by basically blaming the Democrats for what they've done.
Right.
What do you think about that?
The party has a donor problem right now. I think a lot of it has to do with the failures in 2018, and obviously they need time to get back on board. But a new marketing plan that you could sell to donors. A lot of these high net worth donors that are regular donors to the party that are so important, they want to hear a business plan. They want to hear exactly what they're giving money for and buy into it, and that it'll work.
Where it's going.
Yeah, where it's going, and I think that right away would re-energize the Treasury.
Do you think Bob Stefanowski, David Stemmerman, even Mayor Boughton from Danbury, do you think those leaders that have a lot of name recognition, it's an off year for governor and all that, do you think that they should step up, or somebody should invite them to step up? And because I'm sure they have access to capital, to maybe them get together and press Romano, press him, and bring money in for a dedicated purpose? Because we have a lot of wealth in the party, and there are wealthy leaders. What's stopping them? Maybe this TV show will get them prompted. What's stopping them from saying to Romano, listen, we want to put $2, $3, $4, $5 million into television ads and for the municipal elections. We want to go through the party. Here's what we want to see. And these men have money, some billionaires, and their friends are billionaires. So there's a lot of money in Fairfield by itself, county. What's stopping David Stemmerman? What's stopping Bob Stefanowski and all their connections from you know this from the inside? What do you think's stopping them?
Well,
and would J.R. Romano listen?
Well, first of all, I'm really, I'm glad to see them out there, still being involved and trying to make a positive impact on Connecticut. They're all great guys. Everybody that ran for governor, I think they were all very, very nice people. As you were saying that, I was thinking, well, how about all of the former candidates for governor come together and just start a fund?
Right.
To say, this is what the fund is going to be for. We're going to be fundraising all over the state.
Separate from the party.
Separate from the party. It doesn't have to be involved. JR has his hands full as it is. If they could take over this fundraising, aspect of our campaign coming up, how amazing would that be?
Well, this is
and you're right. They do have the connections. They've already invested in the state to get to know all of the people that they wanted to represent, then tonight, they could really make their way around.
Tonight on Channel 23, we're we're challenging David Stemmerman, Bob Stefanowski, Mark Boughton, Tim Herbst,
Mark Loretti.
I know Dave Walker left the state.
Yep. Steve
Obsidnik. To let's find $5 million for television buys for September and October and crush the Democrats in Connecticut with their irresponsible and reckless budgets, tax and spend. Why don't we do that tonight? We challenge them right on our Facebook pages.
Sounds good.
And let's take that and run that with a rocket. We'll do a video, we'll put it together, and we'll have the wealth of the party dedicated. And because without media and messaging, I mean, try to sell a product with no advertisement.
No, it's so vital. So vital.
And the messages can be really pro and really truthful and really hard hitting. And I think that's what Connecticut needs right now. And the municipal elections are the time to do it, because you can take over 10, 15, 20 towns, and all of a sudden you've got a very big base of mayors, first select people, and they have a lot of power to affect the state.
And you have populations in your towns that have bought into the message.
And then that'll translate it to the state capitol.
Yep.
And I think that's the only thing today that we can actually do as a party. And it's going to take these men who are still invested. You know, I won't be running for office again at 62. I did what I had to do. But some of these men are in their 50s and their 40s, and they're interested in pursuing more politics. The best thing they can do right now, I think, is help us and get their friends and all the hedge fund guys and everybody together and get a fund going. Whether it's a political action committee, if the Republican Party doesn't want to do it, one way or another, it has to happen.
Yep.
The people, there's enough voters here to turn it, but they cannot rely on a candidate.
What percentage of, I mean, I'm not a politician like you guys, but what percentage of the voters out there aren't voting? That are just frustrated and staying home?
Big percent.
That's important.
We have
25%.
You got to give them something to get excited about.
We have, what, 130,000 Republicans didn't vote? It was 130.
Yeah.
130,000 Republicans registered didn't vote.
Okay, if they see ads,
our own active party.
If they see ads like this, they might come out and vote if they see something happening.
I know. Well, we're running out of time. We got a few minutes left. If anyone wants to say something, we'll do a little fire round drill here. Trump, does he win in 2020?
I say he wins hands down.
Matt, Trump win?
Yeah,
2020?
absolutely.
Hands down.
It's going to be even better. It's going to be even better than 16.
What's the Seth? What's the ticket for the Democrats?
I think they're going with old Sleepy Joe.
How about you, Matt? What do you think?
I agree, and possibly Kamala Harris as vice.
And with Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders?
I don't think so.
I think Bernie's out.
They both stay in the Senate.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Bernie's out. Warren, and she might keep going.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's it. So we've got about 30 seconds left, and I want to thank everybody, you guys, for coming out here. This was pretty good. It's different, international issues and state issues, but
combo show.
I think the economy's booming, and we're America. Never mind, he is just building this country up financially, and God bless America.
It's a great time to be alive.
Great time for America right now.
Absolutely.
And thanks for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you.